Go ahead and open up your article to page 2. We're going to do page 2, and we are going to do page 3. And you can see that here you have the text feature of a timeline that goes all the way across to page 3. It says communities is sharing information. All people need to communicate. People must share a common language to be able to share information with each other. Language can be spoken. It can be written in words or symbols. Throughout history, people have needed to communicate with each other. Communities have had to find ways to Communities had to find ways to help people meet this need. The way people communicate with each other are constantly changing. People below is a timeline of how communication has changed over the past centuries. Centuries means every 100 years. As you study the timeline, think about how each invention changed communities and the people who lived there. The printing press in 1455. So that would be right here in the timeline. Before 1455, most books were written by hand. Johannes Gutenberg lived in Germany. He invented the first printing press with movable type. The invention made printing books easier. Soon people all over the world would be able to read all kinds of information. So imagine if you had to write every single chapter book by hand, how long that would take to make a book. So this invention really helped print books much, much faster. The electric telegraph that happened in 1831, which is right here in the timeline. Joseph Henry invented a way to send electronic signals over a wire in 1831. He got some ideas from earlier scientists who studied electricity and magnets. Henry's invention changed communication forever. The daguerreotype photograph that happened in 1837. So right here, and you can see that it's pointing to this picture. So you can see it has something to do with the camera. In 1837, Louis Daguerre, a French artist and inventor, developed a special photograph. The daguerreotype was a sheet of copper coated with silver. The sheet was placed in a camera. The image was imprinted in the sheet. You had to sit perfectly still for several minutes to have your picture taken. So instead of the picture being printed on paper, it was printed on a metal sheet. The telegraph in 1844. So that's right here. And this is a telegraph. Samuel Morse continued to work with Joseph Henry's ideas. In 1844, he sent the first telegraph message using Morse code. Morse code used dots and dashes to stand for letters. So they used symbols to send messages. Let's go on to page 3. The Pony Express happened in 1860, which is right here. It has to do with horses. Young men riding horses delivered the mail on the Pony Express. The Pony Express ran through 8 western states. Riders could carry mail about 100 miles per day. It took about 10 days for a letter to get from Missouri to California. The telephone was invented in 1876, right here. Alexander Graham Bell received a patent for the telephone in 1876. Telephones sent sound over wire. People all over the world could speak to each other even if they were far away. Today, phones are everywhere, even in our pockets. The radio was invented in 1901. Inventors like Guglielmo Marconi and Nikola Tesla studied electronic radio waves more than 100 years ago. Soon they were able to send sound around the world. For the first time, people could get news and information as it was happening. The television was invented in 1927. Several inventors helped develop television, including John Baird and Herbert Ives. In 1927, Philo T. Farnsworth invented the first all-electronic TV. By 1949, many American homes had a television. Okay, the computer was invented in the 1940s. Many inventors worked on inventing a computer too. In 1945, Army engineers built the first electronic computer that could solve many computing problems. In 1976, Apple built the first successful personal computer. The internet was invented until 19 1973. The government used early forms of the internet for almost 20 years before it became available for the public in the early 1990s. Today, people use the internet to get information on almost any subject very quickly. The cell phone was invented in 1973, and look how big the cell phones used to be. Martin Cooper got a patent for the world's first cell phone in 1973. He worked for the Motorola company then. Cell phones made it easier for people all over the world to stay in contact with one another. What ways of communicating do you think are still to come? Are there new inventions that have been developed since you've been in school? How many inventions were developed since your parents were in school? Imagine all the possibilities. So, go ahead and take out your gray sheet and get started on the questions.